If USC was close in 2024, then that must mean they're going to be closer in 2025. And if that's the case, I'm going to tell you which steps will lead the Trojans down the Cardinal and Gold road to Oz, aka the playoffs. That's on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, you can pick the platform, you can download this podcast. This show is always going to be free. This show is always going to appreciate your support. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. USC, you are not in Valhalla anymore. You and your dog, Tire Biter, you need to find your way home, back to the promised land, right? Like I talked about on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, Trojans, you got to be getting tired of being the bridesmaid. Stop being that person who almost catches the bouquet. Catch the damn thing and go do the deed already. Make the playoffs. Being close sucks. I mean, coming in second place, if you're just the first person to lose, take the next step. Step forward. Go ball hawking. Grab that bouquet. Get it done. Tie the knot. I have a 10-step roadmap that's going to get USC back home this year. I know on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, I said, look, baseline, you got to go 9-3, period. That's your floor. I'm asking you to win one more game and go to the playoffs. I got 10 steps that'll get you there. Follow these 10 steps. USC will be back where they belong. Number 10. Okay, this is an easy one. Win your home games. This is the baseline. Again, bare minimum. Go 7-0 at home. And all of a sudden, you're 7-0 at home. You kind of see the light at the end of the road. You go, oh, what's that up there on the horizon? Number 9, win on the road. UCLA was a nice start last year, right? And USC showed that actually Las Vegas is a pretty cool place to play as long as Utah isn't involved. Yeah, that's not just about the 2022 conference championship game. USC, Utah, Las Vegas, well, yeah, don't want to do that ever again. So again, 3-2 on the road plus 7 wins at home. You have 7 home games. You got 5 on the road. Go 3-2. You're back home where you belong. So 7 home games. Win. You beat Purdue. Okay, let's just put that. That should be a win. Guaranteed win. Now you're at 8. Find 2 more. Here's number 8. This is the 8th step to take. Create more turnovers on defense. USC should not be tied for 81st in the country with teams like North Carolina State, Georgia Southern. Believe it or not, LSU was tied for 81st. So was Northern Illinois. There's so much going on in this grouping right here. USC plays Georgia Southern this year. USC beat LSU last year. Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame last year. Oh, by the way, USC got the safety from North Carolina State, Bishop Fitzgerald. Yeah. This whole thing is Kevin Bacon. Anyways, last year, USC was tied for 81st in the country. They created 6 fumbles. Let me make sure. Yeah, 6 fumbles, 12 interceptions. That's not enough. You got to do better than that. Number 7, all right? We're going from, I'm not even rating these, but here's the 7th step. Get to the quarterback, okay? If you play on USC's defensive line, get to the quarterback. I need those guys, especially on the edge. This is your mindset. Kill the quarterback. Last year, USC was 92nd in the country in sacks. I mean, I tried to find a better word, but it's pathetic. The D-line in general, just take that next step from last year. I know injuries played a role, but look, the Trojans needed more depth inside. You have that this year. So that injury, excuse me, that excuse, that dog is not going to hunt in 2025. Not with the talent level that's available, not with the depth that's available. It was an acceptable excuse last year, not anymore. Number 6 on the road back to where USC belongs. Run the ball more. If God wants 4 yards and USC is getting 5 yards per rushing attempt, then keep doing it. Look, back in the day when Tim Drevno was USC's offensive line coach, him and Petros Papadakis, they were doing a little whiteboard thing, and Coach Drevno was like, Tim Davis. I apologize. Like, God wants 4 yards. God wants 4 yards. Because if you run 4 yards 3 plays in a row, first down. That's all it was about. USC was doing better than that. They were averaging 5 yards per rushing attempt last year. So if you're doing that, keep doing that. That's the one area, the one stat that just caused me so much consternation last season. USC was number 122 in the country in rushing attempts. Okay. There's like 134 teams at this level. USC was 78th in the country. They ran for 1,889 yards. And I know Woody Marks missed some time, so they probably would have crossed that 2,000 yard threshold. More play calling, more Woody Marks, whatever. But here's the real kicker. So 122nd in the country when it comes to rushing attempts. 78th with just under 1,900 yards. They were 21st in the nation with that 5.16 yards per carry. You know who was slightly better and was ranked 7th in the country? Notre Dame with 5.66 per attempt. And they had a lot more yards, too, on the ground. Because their quarterback last year, Riley Leonard, wasn't a great passer. What I'm trying to show you here is USC's offensive line was able to physically handle the job, and the running backs can pick up yards if you run the ball. Number 5, Eric Gentry has to make plays. Okay? Translation, Eric Gentry just has to be available all season. There's nothing more to say to this. Number 4, offensive line. So yeah, now we're getting to order of importance. Coach Zach Hansen, Coach Riley, you got to find that glove that fits the 5 best fingers in that room. Protect Jaden Mayaba. Give him the time to make good decisions and make a whole bunch of pancakes when you're trying to open up holes for the running game. If the offensive line plays up to their capability, up to their potential, you will see you'll be on the road back to where they belong. The group has the depth. They just need some experience. Number 3, identify wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4. The ones who best complement Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon. And then once you got those guys identified, get the tight ends more involved. Okay, you start doing this, you start using all the tools in your toolbox, start playing with all your toys that you've been recruiting, buying, stashing away. Guess what? You make that offense that much more dangerous. USC's been a little limited. They haven't used the tight end, the running game. When they use it, it works. Use it a little bit more. This year, you got to find a couple of wide receivers that are going to be able to, again, line up out there with Jacoby and Mekhi, because Coach Riley likes to run a lot of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. That doesn't mean forget about the tight ends. Number 2, okay? This one's on Coach Riley. Better situational play calling. Again, run the ball, whatever number that was back up there. Better clock management. This is on Coach Riley. If he works on this nuanced part of the game, the little things, that's going to take USC one step closer to where they belong. So again, if last year was a feeling out process, new conference, new stadiums, new personnel to adjust to, learn from those close lost lessons, take the next step to Shangri-La, right? Oh, by the way, you cannot spell Shangri-La without LA. Just saying. Number one, this is the number one step that will get you back to where USC belongs. Jaden Mayava has to be the man. When it comes to Coach Riley's offense, the quarterback, you can't hide him. Bad plays under center are not allowed. His offense is built around the quarterback. So it's imperative that Jaden is leading the procession down that cardinal and gold brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Beat up all the munchkins. How's that? I would love to see a version of Wizard of Oz where the munchkins get their butts kicked. I don't know. That just ran through my head. Anyways, if USC follows those 10 steps, guess what? USC is going back to the playoffs. Not going back, making the playoffs. Going back to where they belong, though. In the national conversation at the end of the year. Is USC the team you want to play? Is USC the team to win the championship? That's where USC needs to get back to. Take these 10, if they do these 10 steps, guess what? You'll all be saying, Mark, he was right. They should have listened to him. All right. A couple more segments to go. I'm going to talk about how USC can actually climb that ladder. The AP poll was released. And then the third segment, I need people to stop trying to recreate the wheel. Stop redefining things. Stop trying to shove your way into a certain house that you don't belong into. There's only so much room. And it's pretty much, there's no more room for additions. This house cannot get any bigger. Just the way it works. I'll explain in the third segment. Before we do that, hey, look, we've all been there, right? Maybe you're looking for some tickets to a show, to a concert. You want to close out the summer with a bang. Maybe you're looking for tickets to a USC game. That's all right. You get online, you're waiting your turn, and all of a sudden, boom, you lose your spot. Something happens, the internet breaks down, whatever, you lose your spot. We've all been there. Live music, buying tickets to a show, hanging out with good friends, should be about making memories, not the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Seriously, did you know this? Did you know that the prices actually drop the closer you get to the start of the show? It's true. Because of that, you can save up to 60% off with Game Time's killer last-minute deals. Ever wonder what your view is going to look like before you buy it, before you check out? When you use Game Time, you don't have to worry about that. The app shows you a panoramic seat view. There's going to be no surprises when you show up. And with Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay. There's no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms will apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, and you're going to get $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Get that out there. All right. So at least this offseason, I can say it's been pretty consistent. A lot of consistency with doubt against USC. USC has literally missed the cut on just about every single preseason poll. The coaches poll, the recently released AP poll, all those other different, preseason all conference, whatever. USC is like, you're over here right now. We're not really looking at you. I saw this from, I think Ryan Karchi tweeted this out on X. USC is not ranked in the preseason AP poll, top 25. This was just the 5th time in the last 60 years. I mean, that's consistency, right? So I think everyone's been consistent regarding USC, this offseason in their evaluation. USC's been pretty consistent. It's interesting that they're not getting any type of benefit of the doubt. Bottom line is this: all the media, the folks who vote in the poll, all they remember is last year's 7-6. The year before that, slightly better, 8-5. So yeah, I think the confidence level is low right now. The copium type of response from USC fans, and I'm going to go over the top 25 here in just 1 second. It's like, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish. There's a lot of truth to that. However, there's also another truth. When you have to climb the ladder with 28 or 29 teams that are already ahead of you, it makes moving up a little bit more difficult. USC, Lincoln Riley, Jaden Mayava returning at quarterback, the great defense that Antonlynn has put together. They opened up at number 30 in the AP poll. Okay. You want a little strange twist of fate? Guess who's number 29? Louisville, with Miller Moss as their starting quarterback. Interesting, right? So putting that little footnote aside, I also find it very interesting that, look, it's been one of those conspiracy theories, but when it continues to happen year after year after year, you just say the polls are skewed, they're biased, they're going to favor the SEC. I mean, it's almost like, hey, certain conference, they play 8 conference games. Let's prop them up to keep that overrated and, that overinflated reputation going. Every year, wash, rinse, repeat. It's like every single year. It's kind of funny, actually. I mean, how else do you explain Texas A&M being ranked ahead of USC? They are. How do you rationalize a 6-7 Oklahoma team? That's what they finished with. That was their record last year, 6-7. How do you get them being ahead of a 7-6 USC team with a head coach who actually knows how to develop transfer quarterbacks? Tennessee, all I can say is, who is their quarterback? Why in the hell are they ranked number 24 in the country? All of a sudden, Joey Aguilar, UCLA's transfer quarterback, who transferred to Tennessee when Nico Iamaleava left Tennessee to go to UCLA, he's the answer? Give me a break. If the voters have an issue with Coach Riley, the offense, quarterback, okay, like I said, why are you taking out on Coach Lynn and USC's defense that only gave up 24 points per game last year? It's actually better than that when you do the advanced metrics. Take out those pick sixes, 21 points per game. I mean, in 2024, Oklahoma used the transfer portal. Well, this offseason, they used the transfer portal to address their offseason needs. They went and got the quarterback they wanted, John Mateer from Washington State. They brought along that offensive coordinator as well. So you got the quarterback, John Mateer. You got the offensive coordinator to go along with him. You brought in the running back from Cal, Jaden Ott. Okay, I get it. Oklahoma improved. Well, USC has a quarterback. They already had 3 Doak Walker candidates on the roster and the best offensive mind in the game. So, I mean, help me, Rob Ryan. Explain to me why Oklahoma is ranked number 19 and USC is number 30? Excuse me, number 18. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So, yeah, tell me there's no bias involved here. Even the Buckeye fan is starting to recognize all the hypocrisy. He said, it's funny that USC, LSU, and Texas A&M, all 3 of those programs, return a large portion of last year's team. And he points out, guess which team went 2-0 versus the SEC? And they're nowhere to be found in the top 25. So USC opened the season beating LSU. They ended the season beating Texas A&M. Here's your top 25. LSU is ranked 9th. Texas A&M 19th. Number 1, Texas, Penn State 2, Ohio State 3, Clemson 4, Georgia 5. Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama at 8. Maybe that's why Oklahoma's there. They beat Alabama in their bowl game, or they beat them last year. 9 is LSU, Miami 10, ASU 11, Illinois 12, South Carolina 13, Michigan at 14, Florida at 15, SMU 16, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Indiana rounds up the top 20, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Texas Tech at 23, Tennessee at 24, Boise at 25. Look, there'll be plenty of movement early on in the season. This poll is going to get shaken up and spit out differently than what it's at right now. Michigan plays at Oklahoma before they arrive in LA. Illinois plays at Indiana before USC goes to Champaign. And as far as USC moving up, they'll have chances. They'll have plenty of opportunities. They play on the road against number 6 and 7. That's Notre Dame and Oregon, respectively. But if USC fans, if you're looking to see USC kind of move up the ladder, inch their way back up there, it's going to take a while. USC's not going to get any credit opening up at home against Missouri State. They're not going to get any credit for beating Clay Helton and the Georgia Southern Eagles at the Coliseum. Beating those programs proves absolutely nothing. USC should beat them. Should beat them by a lot. Maybe that road win, game 3 at Purdue, will be the ticket, because winning on the road is hard. But Purdue is going to be really bad this year. So USC's ascent to the top is going to be rather difficult. So yeah, it doesn't matter where you start; it's how you finish. In theory, if you got a whole bunch of teams ahead of you that you got to climb, and a bunch of teams ahead of you that are maybe having their ranking inflated, when they lose, they don't drop as far. It's convoluted. Bottom line is this: AP poll, any poll, should not be released until you played 4 games. Finish the month of September. Then release the poll. Now you have a good idea of who is who. Excuse me. Who's capable of beating someone else? Who did it on the road? That type of stuff. All right. We've got one more segment to go. Like I said, we're not going to. This is 2025. You don't need to recreate the wheel. It's been working pretty well. So let's not try and come up with a new definition of college football blue bloods, please. So Andy Staples, pretty opinionated guy, kind of like myself over there, on 3, national guy. He's trying to redefine the definition of a blue blood football program. I just don't think he quite understands what the term blue blood means. Okay, it's not something you can all of a sudden say, hey, we did it. We're a blue blood. That's not how it works. So he put out his grouping, and man. So you have Alabama. These are the true blue bloods. Let me give you the true blue bloods, and then I'll tell you who he's incorporated into the group. So Alabama, Michigan, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Ohio State, USC. Those are your blue bloods. Texas, yeah, they're right there. They're there, but they're not really considered one of the most prestigious of the blue bloods. Programs that have done it from the beginning of time. They might have had some peaks and valleys, but they have been able to do it through multiple different eras, going way back. I'm not talking about going back to the 70s or the 80s. So this was Andy's criteria. Top 15 program win percentage, minimum of 750 games, at least 1 national title in 2 of 3 eras, AP or coaches poll in the 2 poll eras, winner of the final game in the bowl championship series / college football playoff era. That's it. And because of his new math, Tennessee, Miami, Florida State, Georgia, Texas, and LSU get to slide on in to the blue blood neighborhood. That's not how it works. First of all, I don't care what the criteria is. Florida State and Miami do not belong on this list in any way, shape, or form. Let's start with Miami. Great program. Nobody knew who in the hell Miami was before Howard Schnellenberger arrived. They were nowhere to be seen on the map. I mean, they had a couple of good years maybe here and there, but nothing of any significance. No national championships, no quarterback U type of stuff. I will give Howard Schnellenberger credit for one thing. When he took over that program, he knew he was taking over a program that had potential. But if you want, this was the bar he set. He said when he took over the Miami job, he wanted to make Miami the USC of the East. And he did. He got the ball rolling for Jimmy Johnson. They're still not a blue blood, though. I don't care how good they were in the 80s going forward. That doesn't cut it. You got to be good prior to that. Florida State, please, let's stop. They were literally a girls' school up until 1947. And one of their majors, after they went co-ed, they had the number one, I'm not joking, this was a major, they had the number one clown school in the country. I don't know who else had that that type of program, but Florida State was known as a clown school. And before Bobby Bowden got there, Lee Corso, Burt Reynolds, that was their claim to fame. I believe they shared the same running backfield. Crazy, huh? Two great stars, but that was Florida State's claim to fame. I'm willing to consider LSU. You know, you can go back to the Billy Cannon days, the counterfeiter, the embezzler, but it took them a little while to actually start being the LSU that I think everyone knows today over the last 30 years. Again, they're probably borderline, but they're not blue blood. Sorry. I gotta draw the line somewhere. Here's where I really draw the line. Georgia, Tennessee, just get out of here. Just leave. Turn around, go home. No. Georgia has been good lately. Up until 1960, I think, or whatever the year it was, they never crossed the Mason-Dixon line for an out-of-conference game. It took a long, long time for them to make a trip where it required getting on an airplane. In Tennessee, please stop. They own the Fulmer Cup. That's who you are. Have they been a good program for a lot of years? Sure. They're not a blue blood. Not even close. Not even close. So, Andy, stop it. I have this issue with you. Stop trying to redefine things, recategorize things. When you have a house full of blue bloods, there's no rooms for additions. Okay, it's a very confined place. You can't just add on a room and say, oh, we're putting them in here. You want to build a guest house? Fine, build a guest house. We have some visitors, people who want to associate with blue bloods, who can, bring a bottle of wine and hang out, but they can't stay. Eventually they got to leave. All right, there you go. Another episode of Locked on USC in the books. Like I said, when you are done watching the Locked on USC show, don't forget about Brian Smith, the portal. You can watch that on YouTube, part of the Locked on Network as well. When you're done with Locked on USC, get on over there to wearesc.com. So much good stuff going on. You want to check out all that written content. And then come on back here because we'll be doing this again tomorrow. What we do around here 5 times a week, every day. That's why you want to make Locked on USC your first listen every day. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.